No, you're right. I'm not talking about how 90% of women only go for the top 15% of men, because it's bull and it's not true. The majority of women I know do not swipe on men who look like models on the dating apps.
Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm reacting to some of the biggest dating misconceptions floating around on TikTok. We're going to talk about why men and women see the world so differently, why so many women keep ending up in situationships instead of relationships, and why some guys are just opting out of modern dating altogether. If you like what I do here, be super kind and hit that subscribe button. It really helps out the channel a lot, so I thank you in advance. Anyway, without wasting any more time, let's get into the mess.
The reason why men think you're flirting with them when you're actually just trying to be nice and polite is because they would never be nice and polite to a woman that they are not attracted to.
While I'm sure that this is true in some instances, you also have to take into account that the experiences that men and women have in the world are very different. Very rarely, if ever, are guys on the receiving end of random acts of kindness, compliments, or a sense of warmth from a woman unless there's a level of interest involved. This sort of attention is pretty standard for most women, so whenever it happens, it's not something that's really worth noting. You have to see things from the point of view of a man who doesn't get much attention from women, so when a woman does anything that might even suggest she's romantically interested in a guy, it's likely that he'll think she's flirting or trying to cozy up to him. The part about men not being nice and polite to a woman they're not attracted to is a load of nonsense and a very simplistic view of the world. Why are people on TikTok like this? Of course, men will do more for a woman they're attracted to, but that goes both ways, so I don't get why she's making this a gendered thing. Anyway, let's move on to the next clip.
Why do you get to know someone for so many months or years and you're like intimate with each other and you get to know each other, you know the ins and outs of each other more than anyone else in the whole entire world, and then you go the next day, poof,
I'll call you.
they're gone. They've disappeared. They're not in your life anymore. They're blocked. They're gone. They're nowhere to be found. They have exited your life forever. Yet they saw all of you. They know everything about you. And then they're just gone. But then not only have we been scarred by that, but we do it again. We do it again with a whole other person.
I don't think that someone up and vanishing from your life like that is common, so I have to assume that she's talking about situationships as opposed to relationships. Too many people are investing too heavily into situationships, pretty much treating them as if they're legit relationships that are going somewhere, which is a massive mistake. Even though people are hooking up casually these days, our biology hasn't changed, so this sort of behavior tends to take its toll, and unsurprisingly, it has more of a negative effect on women. While it's not always the case, it's much easier for men to walk away from situationships without feeling as if they were used. Getting into situationships that go on for months or years isn't a good idea for women because they can end up wasting their prime years on someone they'll never have a future with. Unfortunately though, some women go through things like this over and over again and still don't learn from it. And just like she said at the end of this clip, they repeat whatever they were doing with the next guy, thinking that things will be different this time around.
Women of TikTok, can I ask you a very, very quick question? Me and my friend are thinking about running in-person dating events, so essentially get the guys and girls together instead of using things like Hinge and Bumble, because it really feels like the mood in the dating scene is that those apps are just a bit crap and no one really wants to use them anymore. The only problem is when we're looking at other speed dating events and like matching events, what we're seeing is there's lots of girls signing up, so maybe if there's 15 spaces for women, 15 spaces for men, all of the women's spots are filled. And we also don't have a problem. We know loads of intelligent, clever, funny, beautiful women, so we can fill all of those spaces. But it seems like men don't really want to go to them. So what is it that's putting you off? Is it the format, because lots of them are speed dating and it's a bit awkward, like moving between tables, meeting that many women? Is it that you can't find a friend to go to, can't find a friend to go with? Is it that it's proximity and there's just never any that are sort of like near you and there's not enough events? What is it, and what would you like to see if you're doing in-person dating? Because we will do whatever it takes to get you there, but we just need to know like what the vibe is and what you kind of need from us. And if it's none of those things and you just hate in-person events and dating, then tell us that as well, I guess.
The thing with speed dating is that the success rate is super low, and guys are more adverse to rejection than ever. So why would they pay to go to an event just to be reminded about how they're falling short of women's expectations? While I'm sure that women enjoy their fair share of rejection at speed dating events, at the end of the day, it's mostly going to be the men competing against each other for the approval of a woman while they sit back and just choose the best guy. And that's if there's a guy there who ticks all her boxes. When a man walks into a speed dating event, he already knows that the odds are not in his favor, and unlike in a club or a bar, he can't just simply enjoy the rest of the night with his friends if he doesn't click with someone. So at the end of the day, it's just a big waste of time. Towards the end of the clip, she said that she'd be willing to do whatever it takes to get men to attend her event, which goes to show just how badly these women actually want to meet and connect with someone, especially as they get older, which I assume is the prime demographic for the majority of speed dating events.
Men in this generation don't want girlfriends and wives. They want baby mamas and situationships. Ignore the messy bun, do not come for me. But I posted this video and all the guys are like, oh, choose better men. The men you chose, don't blame us for the men you chose, pick better men. Stop telling women to pick better men when men be out here putting up a whole act just to get between a woman's legs and just to use her. How about instead of pick better men, how about y'all just be better men? Is that so hard?
It is about the men you choose though, because there are plenty of guys out there who want to commit to and build a life with a woman. And in fact, many of them are doing it right now. Women are always complaining about the kind of men they choose to lay down with, and I don't know if this is something that'll ever change. It would be silly of me to come online and complain about how the women I'm dating can't stop going to the club and shaking their ass for every guy that walks past. If that's not something I want for my life, the best and most logical thing to do is find a woman who isn't about all that. Saying that these sort of women should be better women is meaningless. There's no need for them to change for me. But if that's how they behave, it just means they're not for me. Why can't the woman in this video see that? It's likely that she's going for guys who want baby mamas and situationships. And if that's not what she wants, she has the power to change that, which would be much better than coming online and moaning about it. If she doesn't want to be used by the same type of guys over and over again, maybe she should do a better job of vetting the men she's getting involved with. But hey, what do I know?
No, you're right. I'm not talking about how 90% of women only go for the top 15% of men, because it's and it's not true. The majority of women I know do not swipe on men who look like models on the dating apps.
The thing is, it is true. And there are loads of studies out there that back this up, especially when it comes to online dating. While anecdotal evidence is helpful, the world is much bigger than the people she knows, so she can't use her personal experience to deny the fact that it's only a small portion of men who are getting all the action. You only have to Google this to see what all the research has to say about hypergamy and the success rate of average guys on dating apps.
Because you can safely assume they're not going to be looking for something serious, they're going to have too many options, and since most women I know are practicing abstinence or celibacy at the moment, you're even less likely to go for those kind of men.
Again, that might be true for her and her group of friends, but it's not a true reflection of what's going on when it comes to the type of man that the majority of women desire. Now, whether or not they can score a guy who ranks in the top 10% is another issue, but that's not what we're talking about right now.
And it's simply not true, this rhetoric that INCELs have come up with, that women only go for the top 5%, the top 10%, the top 15%. You can't even make your minds up about what the percentage is. And the reason that you tell yourselves this, that, oh, you know, I can't get dates with women because they only go for the top 10% of men and that's not me, is to make yourselves feel better that women don't want to date you.
While this is something that incels might talk about a lot when it comes to their experience with women, these studies that they often reference aren't made up. Incels didn't create the concept of hypergamy. It's just a thing that exists, something that men have to deal with when it comes to dating. While a lot of men are able to find someone who wants what they have to offer, many of them don't. But just because they're not successful with women, it doesn't mean that the things they're saying online are untrue. Not only that, but there are a lot of men out there who are good with women, and they also recognize these concepts that she says incels came up with.
And the reason that women don't want to date you is because you low-key dislike women and that oozes from your pores. You resent paying for dates. I have so many men in my comments that don't want to pay for dates. And you use women as schmex objects. The amount of men I have in my comments that say they would never sleep with a woman if she didn't put out within the first 2 or 3 dates is quite frankly alarming. This is why women don't want to date you. It's not because they're going for the top 10% of men. Trust me.
You can't just assume that guys who understand that women tend to want the top 10% of men aren't able to find women to date, because that's just not the case. I mean, if this was just something guys made up, why do the studies conducted by apps like Tinder, OkCupid, and Hinge show that only a small percentage of men get most of the matches and attention from women on those platforms? Are there men out there who are angry at the world and have a hatred for women? Sure there are, but that's not the majority. Most of us just recognize this fact and move accordingly if we want to be successful when it comes to dating. When it comes to men not wanting to pay for dates, that's just a result of men repeatedly being told that they're not needed and that women can handle everything on their own. So guys are simply taking advantage of that and taking a step back so the ladies can take charge. They also don't want to feel like they're being used for a free meal, which isn't a rare thing nowadays. When it comes to dating, most of the rules have gone out of the window, so you have to navigate each and every situation as it comes. Those are my thoughts on all this. But what do you guys think?